Okay, tonight, 1 Nephi chapter 9.
And all these things did my father see and hear and speak, as he dwelt in a tent in the valley of Lemuel, and also a great many more things which cannot be written upon these plates. And now as I have spoken concerning these plates, behold, they are not the plates upon which I make a full account of the history of my people. For the plates upon which I make a full account of my people I have given the name of Nephi, wherefore they are called the plates of Nephi, after mine own name, and these plates also are called the plates of Nephi.
All right, this short chapter here, chapter 9, is just like it's a commentary on the actual writing that's going on. Okay, the plates, of course, as you know, are the plates that are being engraven upon. Okay, as they're writing down, they don't have they don't have a pad of paper to write on. They don't have a computer to type into. Right, so they're recording their records on these plates, and they're engraving the different words. Right. Now, if you remember from one of the other weeks, okay, we had spoken about the different kinds of plates that were being used. All right, we had the large plates and the small plates. Okay, now who remembers? A little review here. Who remembers now the plates that Nephi is mainly writing on that he's talking about here? Would they be the small plates or the large plates? The small plates. Okay, right. The small plates are over here, which is mainly Nephi's record. Right, whereas the large plates were what Lehi was writing on, and then he later gave them to Nephi when he was older. Okay, so Nephi is writing on the small plates. So when he's talking about these plates, he's talking about the small plates because that's what he's writing on. All right, so now if you read it back that way, all right, it says that like in verse 1, it says, my father spoke all these things, like his dream in chapter 8 that we did last time. It says, and also a great many more things which cannot be written upon these plates, because these are the small plates. All right, so he's not going to write everything that his father said over here, because why? Because his father's writing them over here. So why keep a full record in both places? He's just going to abbreviate it here, and so that's what he's doing. So he's just kind of putting in that comment. He says, I can't write it all down on these plates because they're small plates. Right? Now in verse 2, he starts talking about both. It says, behold, these are not the plates upon which I make a full account of the history of my people. For the plates upon which I make a full account of my people, I've given the name of Nephi, wherefore they're called the plates of Nephi after my own name. Now, this part, right, I have to tell you, when I read this originally and first studied this years ago, it's almost a little confusing to me as to why he did what he did. Because if you read what it says he called these large plates the plates of Nephi after my own name. He says, and these plates are also called the plates of Nephi. Right? So he called them both the plates of Nephi. So it was a little almost confusing as to why he gave them both the same name. But that's why later on in the book it refers to them as the large plates and the small plates of Nephi. All right? So they're all the plates of Nephi, but one's the large plates, one's the small plates. So it almost seemed redundant, right, to say, well, I call these plates of Nephi after my name, and those plates I call the plates of Nephi, right? But that's what he's saying here, is that they're all his plates, I guess, right? But they're referred to as the large plates and the small plates. Okay, so that's the distinction that's being made here. So as you see, he's starting to say what's going to be on mine versus what's going to be on the other one.
Nevertheless, I have received a commandment of the Lord that I should make these plates, for the special purpose that there should be an account engraven of the ministry of my people. Upon the other plates should be engraven an account of the reign of the kings and the wars and contentions of my people. Wherefore these plates are for the more part of the ministry, and the other plates are for the more part of the reign of kings and of the wars and contentions of my people.
Every time he says these plates, it's these plates. Every time he says the other plates, this is the other place. All right. So if you follow along, you say these versus the other. Okay, it's these versus the other. So now as he's saying these, he's saying on these plates, I'm going to write more the record of the ministry, right? In other words, the spiritual stuff, right? Things that would be about the Lord and about ways of bringing people to a knowledge of God, right? So he's throwing in that word here. This is going to be about the ministry of God to my people, all right? Whereas over here on those other plates, I'm going to put what?
The kings.
Right. Right, the records of the kings and then the wars and the contentions, really like more of a history of like a natural history of what happened. All right, so here it's going to be more, I'll say history. Okay, and he mentions kings and wars and contentions. Okay, and when you get to the part of the book, like the second part of the book, you'll see that that's true, right? There's a lot of record of the different wars and the kings and things that happened from a historical perspective, right? So that's in the latter part of the book. But the first part of the book, which is from the small plates, you'll see it's more spiritual based, right? So he's just trying to explain the focus of each one. Each one has its own purpose, right? I mean, there's a purpose in keeping history, but there's a purpose in saying, well, I want to focus on the things of God also. So each had its own focus.
Wherefore the Lord hath commanded me to make these plates for a wise purpose in him, which purpose I know not. But the Lord knoweth all things from the beginning. Wherefore he prepareth a way to accomplish all his works among the children of men. For behold, he hath all power unto the fulfilling of all his words. And thus it is. Amen.
Right? Now he mentions a wise purpose here. Now, one of the weeks that we talked about this, we talked about what the wise purpose was. Does anybody remember why it made sense to have two separate records going on? What the wise purpose is it was a backup in essence. It was a backup in case one got lost, and guess what? One did get lost, right? So it was a case of a backup that was needed, so because God was prepared for it, so then when one got lost, the other was still in place. Okay, so that was the wise purpose. And so in Nephi, as he's writing this, doesn't know what the wise purpose is. He just says, I feel like God has some purpose in this. And so, sometimes when we do things, we feel like God has a purpose in things that we do. And so you may not find out about it until much later, if ever, but you trust that God has a purpose in some things that happen. And so as long as you feel like there's a purpose, then you can live with that, because you say, well, God has a purpose, has a reason, so I'm going to go with whatever God has in mind here. Okay? So as you read chapter 9, like I said, it's a short chapter, but it's just, again, talking about the difference between the two kinds of plates and what the purpose of each one is, what the focus of each one is. And so he's saying, I'm going to write this kind on this one and the other on the other. And so as you read going forward, you understand why I'm mentioning this here and not there, and that sort of thing.